Hello, LinkedIn, Twitch, Periscope, YouTube, Facebook, and did I say Twitch already? I don't remember.
I think you did.
I think I did. Happy Wednesday. I am here with my brother from another mother, Andy Leonard, and we are going to record a live show of Data Driven. Here's the fancy little overlay. And if you're confused by the last time I said that James Bond music on the last episode of Data Driven, that's because I forgot to kind of edit that part out. So then there was actually no intro music. It was just Bailey kind of just talking. So let's see if I can find the overlay. I am Frank Lavinia, and to my immediate side, I'm not sure if it's left or right.
One of those sides.
One of those sides.
You got a 50-50 shot. Yeah.
I have a 50-50 shot. Let's see. To my left, I think it is Andy Leonard. Of course, if you're listening to this on the podcast only, you're probably like, what are they going on about? But no, we are streaming this show live on a beautiful Wednesday afternoon. It is Wednesday, right?
Yeah, I had to check.
I had to check too. And as always, we'll take your questions and whatnot as the show goes on. But last week we interviewed me and we talked about kind of the 6 questions. I like this animated background. It's very data sciencey.
I do too. Yeah, it's a great background.
And the folks that are listening only are just missing out. So head on over to we'll make sure in the show notes that you see that. I noticed that Andy has a much clearer resolution today. You want to tell folks how you got that?
Yeah, so we were experiencing and having degrading internet performance here. It had been going on for a little more than a month. And we just thought, initially we just thought, oh, something's up. But then it was crazy things like we have a 25 meg DSL modem. We live out in the sticks, and 25 megs is not a lot compared to a lot of people, but it's pretty fast around where we are. And then it started doing things like dropping the wireless that's coming directly from the modem. I've got a couple of routers set up here at the house to kind of divide the bandwidth accordingly. So we ended, I work from home. Some of my work started suffering as well as a result of that. It was just click and wait 30 seconds in one instance. Craziness. Called the tech. Tech came out, troubleshooted, and said, yeah, this modem is like over 5 years old. It's done its bit for you and the family here. So put another one in. And immediately noticed a huge spike in upload speed. It's nothing compared to like where you are, Frank. You've got great internet out there in Southern Maryland, and but it's about 3 times better on upload speed. And I think you can see it. I was a blurry, fuzzy blob. If you go back and look at the video we did when we interviewed you, so this is better, and you can actually see that I'm wearing my Past Summit 2020 shirt. I'll zoom in there.
I see that. You can actually read the text.
That's you impressive. Can read it. And I've got this shirt on. Today is Wednesday, the 16th of June, 2021. Tomorrow, the call for speakers, Frank, for speakers closes at 11:59 p.m. UTC. So I've submitted. They will allow you to submit something like 10 different things. I submitted a session. I'm probably going to go submit another session or 2.
Is it going to be virtual again this year, or they've not made it?
It is virtual this year. The organization, the old PASS organization, ceased to be in January, but Redgate Software picked them up.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I'm sure a lot of folks knew that, but I kind of didn't know that, so.
Yeah, well,
if you didn't know, don't feel bad. You're in good company.
Don't feel bad.
I knew somebody
right?
picked them up, but I wasn't sure
who. So, and kudos to Redgate. They are doing everything that they can to maintain A lot of the material, a lot of the knowledge that was out there, the old recordings and stuff like that. They're doing a really great job. The team over there. I don't know who all's engaged with the team. Um, I know Steve Jones is engaged. I know Annabelle is somewhat connected with that. Annabelle Bradford, and I don't want to say the wrong people. Kendra Little may be engaged with it, involved. She's had some experience with it. Jeremiah Peshka was a former board member of the PASS organization, the directors at large. What they're trying to do is address some of the stuff that it there was only a handful of people who really kind of watched, the inner workings, or tried to. I was one of those because I was engaged in a community, and for us, they're trying to, well, not for us, but for the community, they're trying to address some stuff we saw and pointed out and said, hey, sometimes we had a thought of a way to do that better. Sometimes we just pointed fingers. I did this more than I should have, and just said, that's not right. There's got to be a better way to do that. And it was rare. I don't want to be, knocking on the way things were. It was a very rare occurrence. But like all things, right? Like data driven, we're always striving to do better and get better. Sometimes we do that and we knock it out of the park, and then other times we struggle on and try to just do the best that we can. And that's what I think. I think the PASS organization had noble and good intentions, and they did the best that they could.
No, I totally agree. I mean, running a user group can be thankless. Can be a thankless job.
We've done it.
Yeah, I
Both
mean,
you and I have done it. We restarted Richmond SQL Server Users
mhm.
Group. Gosh, you know what? That's 15 years, Frank.
Oh wow,
15 last month. It was 15 years. We
can you
did the
believe it?
first one in May of
Richmond Code Camp or
2006. The SQL Server Users Group.
SQL Server User Group. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that was cool. That was awesome. That was
Code Camp.
and the
Code
Code
Camps were
Camp.
cool,
That was
awesome
fun.
too.
Um, ECPI, was that where we had it?
Yeah, we did the first one over on Southside, Richmond Southside
That's right.
RVA.
That's right.
And I've got a picture somewhere of, I think it was you and me up front doing kind of bouncing off each
I
other.
think, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It was fun. That was fun.
it
That was
was
my
awesome.
first keynote and stuff like that. That was a
Yeah,
blast. I mean, it was
we had a fantastic team too.
yeah.
Daryl Norton.
Greg in Virginia Beach.
Yeah.
Who else?
Susan.
Mm-hmm.
Susan Lennon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And just a huge team. I know I'm leaving people out, but it was a fantastic team. It's got Kevin Israel,
Kevin
Kevin
Israel,
Hazard,
Kevin Hazard,
the Kevins. Yeah.
Mike Richardson, who was the original founder of Richmond.net. Yep. He came
Yes.
down to speak.
Yes.
'Cause I think he moved to New Jersey or Baltimore.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that. So just lots of great people. And if we left you out, I apologize. We didn't mean to, but yeah, that went.
We were
We
getting
did
older though. That's like 15 years ago. So.
that. Yeah, and it was two. We did two of those a year for
Hmm.
at least 5 years.
Right.
I remember we did some SQL Saturdays as well, and
Oh
then
yeah, I remember
different
going
teams
down
took that over.
um,
Yeah.
and speaking at a couple of them too.
Yep. Yeah.
Speaking
Great
of
team.
PASS and the
Yeah.
virtual summit, now who's taking over SQL Saturday? Is that somebody else?
No, same group for
Same
now.
group. Okay.
Redgate did that, but they're doing their best to form a board
Oh, that's good.
just for SQL Saturdays, make it a nonprofit. They filed Steve Jones on the blog. Last week, I think it was last Friday, mentioned that he had filed for a 501c3 status for the entire organization.
Oh, cool.
That'll help, with stuff. And
Helps with sponsors and all that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's just a great way to do it when you do sponsors. Now they're donations and they're
Right.
charitable contributions. So, at least I'm not sure how all of that works. I remember when we were setting up the SQL Server Users Group, we formed the Richmond User Groups Corporation.
I
That was
remember you
one of the
telling me
things
about
we
that.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we did not make it a 501 C3 because you couldn't sell things outright,
Mm,
and I wanted to be able to do that. So I kept it. It was a not for profit, and it's a subtle distinction in the Commonwealth of Virginia between a not for profit and a non-profit. So anyway, and that was, I'm not a lawyer, don't listen to me. But I wrote about what I did, and it's back in, in the archives of the blog. But but yeah, it was, and it wasn't. Daryl Norton is actually the guy who came up with that business. And Daryl, he may still be an MVP. I'm not sure. He was a
I'm pretty
.NET
sure he
MVP
is. Yeah.
forever, and he's also an MBA. So those are handy to have around when you're thinking about businessy stuff like that.
No, absolutely. Those little letters make a big difference.
Yes, and he wrote this plan up for to use down at Virginia Beach, but for whatever reason, they were just struggling to get traction. And really, all I did on for my part on Richmond User Groups Corporation was I just executed his plan. I thought
That's
it was
cool.
brilliant, and yeah, we had money in the bank. We flew Buck Woody and Donald Farmer in from way wherever they were. I don't know if Buck lived in the Pacific Northwest at that time. Donald did, and he still does. Buck's in Tampa now, but we were. I remember having a conversation with the past organization leadership once, and it was, yeah, and it was bad because it was in front of others. I regret that part of it, but the leadership,
I remember hearing fragments
yeah,
of it.
they're like, "What can we do to support you?" And what do you
Right.
need from past? And I said, "Nothing. You just need to get out of my way. Uh,
Right.
we're doing just fine." So,
Right.
not not the most positive of
That's
conversations.
funny.
Yeah, but it
So,
was also true.
I think that's a good segue
Yeah,
because
yeah, it's
you and
great to
I
say.
met in because of the developer community, and just like we did last week, where we turned the microphones on ourselves, where folks interviewed me and well, you interviewed me. We're going to do that with you. So if you've been waiting with bated breath to see, hey, when are you going to ask Andy those questions? Today is your day.
Here we go.
So no, I think that was a good segue and talk about community and stuff like that because
Yeah, yeah.
community is important. I think even especially, I mean, we can probably have a whole other show about like, well, what's
Oh
this mean?
gosh.
Actually, that'd be a good show with Tim McAlilly, who we were talking about this on another live stream. Like what does it mean? Like what do
Mhm.
in person? What does community mean in a virtual world? Because you can certainly reach a lot more places and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But I will not wander too off topic because I know Bailey will make fun of me. So we'll start the questions with the question that
Cool.
we love to ask, and that is, how did you find your way into data? Did data find you, or did you find data?
Wow, Frank. Data found me. That's a straight up answer.
Hmm.
Years ago, in a land far, far away. Actually, not that far away. About 45 minutes up the road between here and Richmond. I was a systems integrator in manufacturing automation. So I held a master's electrician's license in the Commonwealth of Virginia, but I never wired a house. All my work was done in manufacturing plants, a few that I worked in. I went out on my own. I began designing and building electrical panels, control panels for these big, big control systems. We didn't do like 120 volts AC standard, which is household wiring, 120, 240. We did 480 volts, and it was in three phases. So won't get into all of that, but that's a lot of what the work was. And because I had programmed as a hobbyist in the past, I started in 1975. A neighbor retired from the Air Force, from the kind of the Air Force counterpart to NASA, and he was an engineer. And he built a computer out of a kit, a Motorola 6800 computer from Southwest Technical Products. He built a trainer first, and I was, bored. So I used to go, talk to the neighbors, and I talked with John. His name was John Barker. He's passed away a few years ago. John did, but he changed my life. He taught me machine code when I was
Oh,
11, and
cool.
then basic when I was 12. With my parents' permission and all of that. He was a super cool guy. I'd been a hobbyist programmer, and I started using the software called Human Machine Interface Software, or HMI. And I worked with one called Wonderware, and then another one called RS View from Rockwell Software. Those communicated with all sorts of programmable logic controllers, PLCs. You can think of PLCs as kind of like an industrial computer. There's other systems out there that are similar, but not the same. SCADA, Systems Control and Data Acquisition. That's what SCADA stands for. I did all that.
And Skate has been in the news lately, thanks to our certain
Yeah.
pipeline company. Sorry, I didn't mean to throw you off.
I feel for those folks, man. It's heartbreaking, and I'm optimistic that a lot of people have learned from their experience. And
So before you continue, I heard a joke,
Sure.
and it was
Okay.
by Rob Tiffany, who we got to get on the show. He's a cool guy.
Yeah.
Interesting stories. Ex Microsoft. He's kind of a big deal now in the IoT space, and he goes, the S in IoT stands for security.
That's funny.
Which I think pretty much sums that one up.
That's about right. I mean, it's an easy mistake to make,
Mhm.
and we have just repeatedly made it throughout. I mean, it's one of those easy ones to just miss. The While I was doing these electrical control panels, one time I was doing one for um, a large plant in the south, and one of the big machines, big processes, and it would collect data. They'd call them tags or data points, depending on the software you were using, and we'd store the value with a timestamp in a database. And
Mhm.
at the time, I'm trying to remember which version of Access this was. This was in the mid '90s. I want to say it was, Access '97 maybe. And I
Mhm.
loaded that on there. I knew just enough to be dangerous um, about it, and configured it. And I think it actually came with it. The HMI machine may have actually had Access installed.
Really?
Configured it. I think, yeah. These were PCs, so
Right.
I just followed the instructions, did what it said. But being the engineer I was at that time, I thought, I want to stress test this.
Right.
So it was a long weekend, um, and I was in at the end of the day, and I could configure the tags. There were over 1,000 tags, and I configured the system to store each tag every second. So, and I just turned it on and walked out. Now, the machine wasn't running, but it was still recording this data every second.
Right.
And I got back, I guess Tuesday morning, turned everything on, and I saw this 4 gigabyte. I remember 4 gigabyte.
And that kids,
file.
that was about number of years before. Well, you said Access '97, so this is gonna be late
Yeah.
'90s. So this is probably about what 5, 6 years before the iPod first
Oh
came out.
yeah, yeah,
So
and it
just trying
was
to level set here for the folks that may remember 4 gig. Like,
yeah.
that's not a big
32
deal.
bit was still kind of newish
Mm,
back then. 32-bit OSs. I mean, that was big data. Okay,
that was big data.
4 gigs was big, and I tried to open the file in Access, and it would not open.
That's
So
right, because Access had a limitation,
I
and it
didn't
was not
realize that.
because of Access. It was because it was on was it FAT 16?
Yeah.
You know, sorry,
It,
I'm like interrupting your
no, it's okay.
question.
No, it's you're right. There was probably a number of reasons why it wouldn't open, but it
We
wouldn't.
should
I let it
we need to have like a tech like retro tech kind of reminiscing thing, like
back in the day.
back in the day, the Commodore 64 and all that and stuff like
We
that.
used to carve our own chips out of wood.
Out
The
of
years
wood.
began with a one.
So this is
I heard a
something
good
that's
one.
yeah.
William Durkin told me a good one about a year ago. He said that we um, we couldn't afford ones, so we used lowercase l's. That's
Lowercase
a good
L.
joke.
I like that one. I like
That
that
was
one.
good.
Well, here's a
But
funny
this,
thing. So
go ahead.
I'm sorry I cut you
No,
off.
go ahead. Go.
Um, that there was a guy in the neighborhood that I may have shared the story before, so forgive me if you've heard it. But there was a guy in the neighborhood where I grew up where kids would go to his house to basically get like pirated video games. So they give him like $5 and they'd walk away and like put something under their coat. So this being the 80s in New York, people were thinking, oh my God, like this guy's dealing drugs. So the cops came, raided his house, and quote unquote, there's just computers here. There's no
Ah,
drugs. And they walked away. So ever since
nice.
then, like he set up a BBS after that and stuff like that. But it was pretty funny. Like people just don't realize like this was just a different era.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know.
And I went. I was stuck, so I went home and logged into. It probably was CompuServe at the time.
Hmm.
Opened Netscape and typed in altavista.digital.com.
Oh my God!
Went to
Wow.
the search bar and I typed in uh, Microsoft Database,
Hmm.
and it came up with this talk about SQL Server. I'd never heard of SQL Server, so I was digging around in that. Just so happened, about a week later, there was a computer show at the show place in Richmond over by Mechanicsville, and I rode over there. And you would go in. I think it may have cost $5 to get in. I can't remember. It may have been free, but you'd wander around, and they had all sorts of hardware, software, and all of this. And Frank, I purchased an NFR. That's not for resale version of SQL Server 6.5 for $20. Bought the CD, took it down to my client, installed it, and ran the exact same test again. And when I opened up the query analyzer, I think it was query analyzer. It's been a while. And started, typed my query, so selected. It sat there and spun for a number of minutes, but it loaded all of those 4 megs of data from all those tags. It was able to pick that up and allow me to do queries against it, and it did just fine. So I immediately took it to the plant engineer and I said, "Here's what I installed. You need to go buy a real copy of this." And SQL Server 7.0 was coming out,
Hmm.
so they bought. They asked, "Should they buy that?" And I said, "Yes. Go get the new version," and they did. And that's kind of how data found me, is I was trying to just solve a problem. And I'm not proud of the fact that I bought and misused an NFR copy, although Microsoft ended up getting a license out of it, and it was
Yeah,
all
I
above
mean,
board.
those computer shows were, for those who don't know what we're talking about, the best way to describe it would be like a flea market for nerds, basically.
Yeah.
Because before you could go to Amazon, when Amazon was just a twinkle in Jeff Bezos's eye, if you wanted to get good prices on computer stuff, before Newegg, before that, there were
Yeah.
mail order places, but you would go into this place, usually at a hotel, sometimes at a ballroom, and you pay $5, $10 to it and go in, and you basically walk around the tables and kind of see what they got. And it was kind of like a medieval kind of souk, but for nerds. So like, I remember buying a SCSI scanner, and I'll be like, well, that guy over there has that one like $10 cheaper. I was like, so it was just like it
Yeah.
was. And if you waited to the end of the show, because usually over weekends, if you waited the last day, the people there just did not want to load crap into their car, so you can get.
Yes.
So it was
That
this
was the
whole
best
scene.
time.
It was like a
Sunday
whole
afternoon.
scene,
Oh
you
yeah.
know. So
Those were the days, though.
those were the days indeed. So what's your favorite part of your current gig?
Oh wow, Frank. I am a learnaholic. I and I think that's why I enjoy teaching as much as I do. It's always been the favorite part of anything that I do is teaching. But I do enjoy learning first. It's just I can't describe it in a really good terms. I've got an analogy, but I'm not going to share it. But think
Trying to keep
about,
that clean rating.
I'm trying, well, yeah, I mean, maybe, and it's a little revealing of my past. So,
No, we'll
but
let that one go. At least until the
let's just,
statute of limitations gets into effect.
I've already confessed to, misusing a NFR license. But
You know what though? There was pictures in TMZ or whatever of Bill Gates still. He's still landing in Newark Airport to go to New York City for the weekend. So I think Bill's going to be fine.
oh, well, he's probably
And
okay.
there's plenty of other Microsoft executives who have lakefront homes and not just one boat, but two. So
We don't want to get started on that. I
that's
know
like,
where that's going.
but they're
But
okay.
yes, no, I get it.
They'll be okay. Their kids are one, their kids will go to college. They'll eat. They'll be
Yeah, they'll be okay. They're not hurting because of that NFR money, I'm sure.
okay. That's right.
But it still makes me feel a little bad. I'm not making
Yeah.
that up. You know me, Frank.
No, I know.
I'm just weird about that kind of thing. But um, so the learning part, and whenever I get an opportunity to kind of do exploratory consulting, or I've got a full time job now, so I still do consulting on the side, and I still maintain the products that I work on. dilmsuite.com, little plug there.
Oh yeah. I
But
should have had the
the
graphic come up.
yeah, cool. And but being able to share that, learning enough or well enough to share what I've learned about it. If I got anything to say to anybody about, who's interested in becoming a trainer, you will never know it all. Let's just start there. You will never know everything. And if it bothers you, you think you don't know enough to do this kind of work now, you're wrong. There's somebody out there who needs to know what you know right now,
It's true.
and you can start like I did. Just start training for free at these events that are out there. My gosh, since they've gone virtual, there's just so many of them. And they're really getting a handle on this. That Tim McAlealy that Frank mentioned, he and Brian Moran started Azure Data Fest, I believe, a few years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
it
it's just
spread.
taken
It
off.
spread. It went to Boston. It went to Philly. It went to
Yeah,
San Francisco. But since the pandemic, they went virtual, and it's a global thing now.
yeah,
Speaking of which,
there's one
my
coming up,
Google
right?
there's one coming up virtual, and there's actually a planning meeting for it at 3 p.m., which means once again I have to cut the
You
stream
got a hard
short.
stop.
I'm
All right, I got
sorry.
to talk fast. That's
So
hard
this
for
this
me.
is my problem. If anyone out there on the internet knows how to sync multiple calendars, call me. Like seriously, this is a major blocker for the show for me personally.
Yeah.
It's an issue. But in
No,
the interest of time,
we've both
um,
spent money trying to solve that for you. But yeah, that's my favorite part: learning and teaching, doing fun gigs.
complete this sentence. When I'm not working, I enjoy blank.
Oh goodness, I read a lot. Um, I love spending time with my kids that are home. Hey, John,
Hey,
and
John Wood.
yeah, so yeah, just we've got gardens and a greenhouse, and there's just a number of things to do around here that I enjoy a lot. So
I'm looking forward to seeing the data that you produce out of your greenhouse because
I
there's
wondered if I
definitely
could write that thing off. I built it before the wood prices went through the roof, which it would
it's
have been
good.
3-4 times what it cost.
Right.
But I'm there too. We've got a number of IoT devices around the house that we've started using already. We caught a little bit of data when it was really, really cold in January.
Hmm.
We were trying to measure the difference between the hot house, and then I've been running Andy Weather for over a
Oh yeah,
decade.
for a while, yeah.
So I've got data that goes way back. So I was able to use those instruments to capture the outside temperature. It was interesting. There was a classic time sync problem.
Hmm.
So, and I put Stevie Ray on the devices on the IoT stuff. We actually
That's cool.
we strung together an Arduino for the instrument pack capturing, and that turned out to be a good call there. And then a Pi for storage because we had one of those new 4 meg Pi 4s.
Nice.
Yeah, so we just
Nice.
put all the data there. Um, yeah, I definitely want to talk about that a little bit later, but I know we want to stay on time for your meeting here.
I'm sorry.
No, no, it's
Just the,
good. We
the
had to do this last time with
right,
you.
I know. It was just like, oh, I mean, it's a good problem to have. People want to
It
make money.
absolutely is, and
As a
I
former
certainly don't.
Silverlight developer and Windows Phone developer, I know what the opposite feels like. All right, so complete this sentence. I think the coolest thing in technology is blank.
It sounds cliche, but the cloud. I love the cloud. Um, I like the things that the cloud is driving. I believe, I could be wrong, that the whole Starlink setup that Elon Musk and SpaceX is putting together, that's being driven by a need for ubiquitous connectivity around the planet at sea, especially in places that nobody's going to build a tower. Um, in the middle of sub-Saharan Africa and the rainforests of Brazil, the outback in Australia. That's not. There's places around here. Places 5 miles down the road that don't have internet access except through their phones. I love that. I love that connectivity initiative that's making its way into rural and less populated and less. I don't know the right word to use, but places that are poorer basically than most of the North American continent. So
Well, and you look at you. I mean, you're not that far off the grid where you
no,
live,
not you're the
and
same way. We're
same
both
way,
in spots where just a mile or two down the road,
right?
people have either less or no options. They, maybe other than their phone.
And I
Um,
don't think it's I don't understand it, but I mean Montgomery
yeah,
County is not the richest county in the U.S., but it's in the top five, top 10
yeah,
consistently. I mean, if you looking it through that lens, now obviously there's more to it than that, but like,
right.
looking around here, like this is as good as it gets. I mean,
Well,
you know,
yeah, and I think
and
there's. Go ahead.
no, I mean economically, I mean this is as good as
That's
it
exactly
gets.
what I was going to say. Yeah,
And like
economic drivers.
if I'm, I think now they put another fiber pipe like down like another mile down the road. So I can't
Nice.
say now a quarter mile to the west of me, but now maybe 1.25 miles to the west of me,
Yeah,
there's no broadband. And what
yeah,
shocks me,
yeah.
and I don't want to derail this because, I can go on a rant on this one, but real estate agents don't know the answer. Now,
Yeah,
granted, before the I haven't been house hunting before the since the
yeah.
pandemic, but like really, like you don't know, like do they have FiOS? Do they have cable? And it's like really, like this not come up? Like I can't, granted, I'm a nerd and I'm probably ahead of the adoption curve, but come on, by
Yeah.
now.
Oh, we
Sorry,
bought
rant.
this place. No, 15 years ago, we bought the place that I'm
Mhm.
in right now. And again, right about the time you and I started Richmond SQL Server Users Group. And that was one of my, top three questions. The question I didn't ask that I wished I had was what time does the mail arrive? Um, because if you're depending on, and back then I depended a lot on paper checks being mailed to
Oh
me.
yeah.
If they come at 8 o'clock at night, that can end up, kind of messing with your cash flow. It's as opposed to coming at, I don't know, 11:30 a.m. or something like that. But I didn't, live and learn, and it's something now. It isn't nearly as big of a deal. People are transferring money electronically, so.
Right.
But at the time, being an entrepreneur working from home, that was a big deal. But yeah, I like the cloud. I like the kind of the ramifications of the cloud, the ubiquity of connectivity that I think we're on the cusp of that. And I don't think we quite have a picture of how that's going to change the dynamic for so many people. I think
And there's so
we
many
use the
businesses.
word, we say democratizing a lot in this business.
Hmm.
I think that's really and truly going to democratize global economy. And I don't think we can
Absolutely.
predict it. It's on this side of it. I don't think there's any way to predict the ramifications.
No, no. I mean, if you look at kind of the work from home or work remotely thing, like there's people that just up and left the country, like like
Sure.
when they could, before,
Yeah.
but still, it's interesting. All right, so next question. Complete this sentence. I look forward to the day when I can use technology to blank.
Gosh, Frank, I love automation, and I just want to continue to do an automation. I've had this dream for a long time of being able to build a data solution that would surface all the data that anybody in an enterprise needs or an organization, anything that they need. I want to build that by one click. One click.
That'd be
That's
cool.
I look forward to that. Yeah.
Question 6. Share something different about yourself that people may not know, but do remember that it's a family podcast.
Well, I already mentioned I had that whole other career where I was doing systems integration, um, which
And you were
was
doing
more.
IoT before it was called IoT.
I really was. AndyWeather.com is a good example of that, and I talk about that in a presentation. And it was back like 2008, 2009. GoDaddy opened up a kind of a DMZ with SQL Server 2008 or R2 on it, something like that. And I just jumped in, to do that because I knew SQL Server. I had SSIS. I could pump data up there. So, yeah, it really wasn't called IoT back then or edge computing, but, something different. Um, I've had a lot of different jobs, and I'm turning 58 next month, and that's a blessing. If you didn't know that before last year, you should know that now. That life is a blessing. It's an opportunity.
Getting old, it beats the alternative, as I
It
like to
does.
say.
Yeah. So but I've some people talk about their job and they say things like, I'd rather dig ditches or shovel manure. I've done both those. I made between $1 and $2.50 an hour doing that kind of work. It was decades ago, but I did that. I drove a truck, an 18 wheeler.
I didn't know
For,
that.
yeah, for a while I did that.
Interesting.
Yeah, and let's see, I was a semi professional musician for a while. I played guitar and saxophone in country bands and a couple of kind of country rock bands back around when Alabama came out. When they hit it big in the early '80s, um, they started using some different kinds of effects on their guitars. And if you grew up playing Waylon and Willie and Creedence Clearwater Revival and stuff like that, you kind of knew how to use distortion and flangers and phase shifters, but nobody playing country did, hardly. So, yeah, did that for a while. Gosh, what else? I was an electronics technician. I was in the Virginia Army National Guard for 6 years. I specialized on um, tank killing missile systems, tube launched optically sighted wire guided tow missiles. Um,
Interesting.
Worked on those for a while. I spent 3 months in China at the end of 1994 doing manufacturing automation there.
Interesting.
Um, yeah, just had a lot of different weird jobs. I'm the oldest of five sons. One survived about a day. He had a heart defect. And
I'm
then
sorry.
another of our brothers passed away due to COVID last August. That's still raw, I mean, this
Yeah,
is just
I
June.
can't
And we've
imagine.
had this whole year of not being able to hang with Glenn and see him. It just still doesn't seem real. It just still
Right.
doesn't. Um, I have five kids and five grandkids. I share that a lot.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah. Five is, seems to be a repeating theme.
and so I've got three daughters and three granddaughters and two sons and two grandsons. They did that to make it easy on the old man.
Right.
I'm
That's
convinced of that. My two older daughters, they hooked me up.
that's nice
Uh,
of them.
Love them. Love all of them. We're all different. We all have we span the political gamut, and we're all over different social things. What I love about my kids though is so I have the two daughters from the first marriage and three children from the second. They don't when they wish each other happy birthday, there's no step or half or any of that
That's
in
good.
it. They're all sisters and brothers, and that's just the way they are, and they're just that's just one indication of the kind of people they are. And I, even when we disagree about politics or social stuff, there's everybody has mutual respect, which is a dying art, in my opinion, in the mainstream.
Right.
And we accept that the other person believes what they believe for a reason, and that the motive is in the best interests of everyone. That's at the heart. If you start there, Frank, it's hard to go wrong. That and on the back end is just forgiveness. Without forgiveness, we're all sunk. And
That's
so
true.
we
It's
just, yeah.
there's a lot that the world can learn from that.
And the last thing I'd share that's different about me, it's maybe not so different, is I'm a Christian.
Mhm.
You can learn, more about that at my blog, andyleonard.blog slash learn dash more. Or there's an about Andy. I think it's just slash Andy there. But it's there, and I talk some about faith, and that is last, but actually first in my life, and in how we roll. So you got a meeting coming up in a few seconds now.
I do, but it's Tim will understand. Last question, and I know you and I share a lot of audiobook recommendations.
Yeah,
What audiobook would you recommend?
gosh, I'm listening to one right now. I don't know that I'd recommend this one. Let me pop open Audible here real quick and
So
just
while
take a
you're
look.
looking that up, I will remind folks who are watching, who
Do
are
that.
listening, that you can go to thedatadrivenbook.com and you can get a free audiobook on us. And and then if you choose to subscribe, you help support the show. It's actually been very helpful in kind of helping us monetize the show without being
Yeah.
obnoxious with sponsors and stuff like that. And I think John Wood, who is a frequent commenter, awesome guy. We used to work together at Wintellect. He does a lot of YouTube videos, and apparently, yes, that's how he got started on Audible. So we are
Awesome,
responsible for
John.
his Audible habit. He actually, I meant to mention this before, but I didn't want to derail the conversation. He actually has a course now on LinkedIn. Just do a search for
Congrats.
Jonathan Wood, and it's on MLNet, or just do a search for ML.net, and
Nice.
which is awesome because he produces really great YouTube videos on MLNet. So I'm glad to
Very
see that
cool,
he's done
John.
that. I've actually bookmarked it, and he's going to be one of the courses that I take next.
We got to get him on the show. I know we've said
Yeah,
that like
for real.
14
For
times.
real. This
But
all goes back
yes.
to that scheduling problem I have. Like it's just like,
solve Frank's schedule,
solve
and we'll
scheduling problem.
we can do it.
Yeah.
So
I
two
have some ideas.
audiobooks.
Okay, go
So
ahead.
two
What are
audiobooks
those?
I'm listening to right now, and I actually sent this first one to you.
That's right.
Louis Giglio, "Don't Give the Enemy a Seat at Your Table." Phenomenal story behind that book and that title, and just I gleaned so much out of it. It was just one of those where I just kept going, wow, and then a minute later, oh, so
Those are the best listens, honestly.
they really are. It's we listen to a lot of business books and books
Right.
about self improvement and that sort of stuff. I would this probably falls into that category. Both of them. It's more about life improvement, maybe. The other one is Believe It, and you did a book review on this, Frank, in one of
That's
your
good.
your law. And I went and got the book after that, and I listen and read a bunch of books. I mean, I never have like one. I'm doing a minimum of probably four at a time. Maybe I'll dip down to three every now and then. Right now, I'm in about five, and Believe It's one of those. And it's almost like, I don't know. To me, it's like a mental meal.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
having
it's like a
this
buffet.
course, and then
Yeah.
that course, and
Yeah.
then that, and sprinkled in with a bunch of YouTube videos from Ed Milet, and
Yeah.
the entrepreneur on fire. His name flew out of my head. Who
John
is
Lee
that?
Dumas.
John Lee Dumas. I almost said JLB, and I was like, no, that's
No, it's
the other.
JLD, but close enough. John, if you're listening, I mean that's an incredible thing there. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, all good. All
He's
good
been
stuff.
on the show, and he's actually, if you go to iTunes, you'll get Impact Quantum. he wrote one of the reviews for it, so which was very,
Nice.
very kind. So I was like,
Very
oh,
nice. But yeah,
I feel
that's it.
touched. Cool.
TheDataDrivenBook.com. You can get
Yes.
started there like John Wood did. And, and help, like Frank said, help us out a little bit. Really appreciate that. And Frank, gosh, this was huge. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule and even running over a couple minutes. You tell Tim it's all
No
my
worries.
fault.
I will. Tim will understand. Tim's a good guy. We have to have him back on the show.
That's true, we do.
Um, but with that, I will let the nice British lady end the show. Good talking to you, Andy.
Good talking to you, Frank. Thank
I'll
you.
fire off the ending fancy graphics, so at least stay consistent with the brand. All
That's
right, have a
right.
great one.
You too.